Hey, welcome back to the Ready State. Since we have a moment and we have time to maybe work on some of these end range positions, I thought I'd give you a different take on the old pistol. Now look, a lot of people have put the pistol into the program because it's a nice exposure of full hip flexion, full ankle flexion, full motion, single leg stuff, right? But sometimes we fail to appreciate how the pistol actually gets used most of the time, which is either stepping up onto something high or stepping down off of something high. And so suddenly I'm going to show you that we can use that position where we typically see that pistol exposed to improve and spend more time at end range. Now check this out. I've got a box here, and one of the nice things about having a box is that I can suddenly be loading without having this leg come up. And what oftentimes gets lost when people are having this conversation about the pistol is we forget about the other leg. Because as this other leg comes up in this bottom position of the pistol, if I don't have enough range of motion in this hip, I'm hosed. And what ends up happening is that in order to make this happen, I've got to tilt the pelvis back to pull myself into a position where I get this leg up and on off the ground. And guess what? That has me fall back. So not only am I interested in being able to close this hip down, but I'm also very much interested in looking what the passive range of motion is for this hip. Now we know that if you're standing on one leg, you should be able to pull this knee up past 90 degrees, right? Ideally, we'd love something in about 120 to 130 degrees in that position. I know we're all stiff, and that's in a bent-legged shape. So long-legged shape, if I'm on the ground, we kind of say a good pass is 90 degrees. But what we find is that a lot of people struggle to keep the leg straight, get to 90, and that's independent of what the foot's doing. So what ends up happening is they end up bending the knee to get this range. They may be missing pure hip range, pure flexion, but it also may just be a posterior chain glute fascia thing. So what ends up happening is they end up getting stiff here, holding on, and imagine trying to hold this leg up off the ground, which means that this leg drops, and then boom, I fall backwards. So one of the things that we can do to improve our pistol is to be able to improve our ability to lift this leg up off the ground. Now we see a lot of good movement drills on the internet where people are working on trying to do this, some straight-legged lifting here to get our brains to connect to this end range in this long lever position, which is a hinge, right? But what we often see is that most people are rounding to make this happen. So they've dumped pelvis backwards to maintain this range of motion or end up in a better shape where they can lift the foot up off the ground, right? Now that's all well and good, but this pistol position isn't very effective. So it turns out, can I sit at this 90 degrees is part of the game, right? Where I have control, but I've got to be able to have this range. And again, could be many things that are restricting this posterior chain. But we see it expressed in this bottom position of the pistol is that you not only have to be able to have access here, but you've also got to have access in this contralateral leg. So one of the things we can do is take that conversation out and end up taking this down, which allows me to get some overpressure. Now most of us can end up in this position relatively well. And in here, I can hold on, use the box, use this weight, but now I've really got a ton of overpressure. And what we tend to see is that people are working on their pistol shape, and there's not nearly the overpressure through the system. The system isn't loaded. I could put something here, but I just do not get the same effect as when I have my entire self pushing through this limb. So, you could add a band. You could do all the crazy things that we like to do, putting this band below that tib-fib, right? You could add in your distractions here. You could voodoo floss here. But even spending some time at this end range with this other leg down gives me a real opportunity to overload this at end range, keeping my ankle engaged. Appreciating that that bottom position may not be limited by this hip and ankle at all. It may be limited by missing this posterior range of motion in the other leg. So let's do a little differential diagnosis. Which one is more important? They're both more important. That was a test. See you guys tomorrow.